This Avalanche Safety Report is brought to you by Mountain TV. Watch Mountain TV anywhere with our free Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV apps. Learn more at mtn-tv.com.
Mountain TV, talking with Brian from the CAIC Colorado Avalanche Information Center. Brian, Happy New Year. Good to see you.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Thanks for having us back.
Yeah, for sure. And again, Happy New Year. And, we were talking about a week ago and you had a number of predictions and true to form, they came true. It's been a busy past couple of weeks, Avalanche-wise.
Yeah, it was a very busy holiday period. We always get worried when we've got dangerous avalanche conditions coinciding with holidays because people have got time off. And maybe the best way to kind of show you this trend in our avalanche danger is to take you to our homepage map. What I'm showing here is where things sat kind of right on New Year's Eve. And so we had warnings starting right after kind of Christmas when the storm started to roll in. So here's New Year's Eve. You can see that avalanche warnings continued through New Year's Day and even through Tuesday. We finally started to come out of the avalanche danger as we got into Wednesday. And this is the kind of gradual declining trend in avalanche hazard we can expect throughout the rest of the work week until about Friday afternoon. This is also reflected in the number of avalanches that we've seen. So you can see that the avalanche activity was actually fairly widespread across the state, extending north to south from up, north of Steamboat all the way down to the San Juan Mountains, west from the Grand Mesa, all the way east into the Front Range. So a lot of places saw avalanche activity. You can see that the avalanche activity is now expanded to basically all aspects and elevations with the onset of that storm snow. And if you look at this bottom chart, it shows really nicely how the uptick in avalanche activity coincides with these storm events. So we saw a big spike in avalanche activity as the storm started to impact us late on December 27th, a spike on the Christmas storm here. And then here's our New Year's hump here. And you can see that the warning period from New Year's Eve to New Year's Day peaked on New Year's Day, and then a gradual decline as we move into the latter part of this work week. And so you can see here what we've got are ridges and troughs moving through the state over the next week or so. And every time we get those troughs, those U-shaped portions in the jet stream there, roll through Colorado, we get snowfall. And so here's this same model, but showing snowfall. And that's our little blip that rolled through Friday into Saturday. You can see we've only got little bits of snowfall on the long-term horizon until a big storm, but that's not looking to line up and hit us till about January 16th. If we zoom into Colorado, here's snowfall totals, and you can see that the snowfall starts to peak on Friday afternoon. And by Saturday morning, those red areas we're looking at a foot of snowfall. So by the time we get to Saturday afternoon, you might see another uptick in avalanche danger in those areas that see about a foot of snow.
And Brian, with the events that we've had over the past couple of weeks, again, some unfortunate events, how are those avalanches triggered? We get people asking all the time, what does trigger those events?
Well, in these cases, it was the people that were involved in the avalanche accidents that triggered them. So we had, unfortunately, over that holiday period, we had 6 separate avalanche incidents. This caught 11 people in those six incidents. 4 people were partially buried, 4 completely buried, and unfortunately, 2 were killed. And so this is a really, tragic reminder of how dangerous conditions are. As we showed earlier, the trend is going in the right way. Avalanche danger is easing. Avalanche activity is dropping off. But we're just coming out of a very dangerous period, and it doesn't become safe like the flip of a switch. And so we're still in dangerous avalanche conditions. We're unlikely to see as many naturally occurring avalanches as we move kind of through the end of the work week and into the weekend, with the exception of those places that might pick up more than a foot of storm snow over the weekend. But what we really want people to know is the 2 incidents illustrated that backcountry terrain can be very easy to access. So in the case of the Berthoud Pass avalanche accident on December 26th, it was an area very close to the highway. In the case of the one near Breckenridge, this was in an area accessed through a gate at the ski area, so very close to the ski area. And we really want people to know that just because the backcountry is easy to access doesn't mean it's any more safe. Even if you can see highways and you can see ski area infrastructure from where you're at, you are still in the backcountry, and appropriate precaution need to be taken.
Brian, no, for sure. And I think a lot of us have done that. You see an area that's kind of cordoned off and you think, I'm just going to ski in a little bit. It's no big deal. It's right next to the ski slope and you can find yourself in a danger zone there. Quick question for you. I know you mentioned a little bit earlier before we came on here about remote triggered events. Can you explain what that means?
I can. So remote triggered events means that you can trigger avalanches from a distance or even from below on flat terrain. And that is the
Yeah.
characteristic of the particular kind of avalanche problem that we're dealing with now, which is called a persistent slab avalanche problem. And that just means that avalanches are breaking on persistent weak layers. And here's a couple images which actually show some remotely triggered avalanches just over the last few days. This was triggered by a couple of our forecasters doing some field work just this week, traveling along the ridgeline, and got a collapse and then release the slope below. You can imagine you could easily do the same thing from the bottom of the slope, which would be a much worse outcome. Here's
Right.
an example from near Crested Butte, which is actually a pretty good illustration. This avalanche was triggered by a group of skiers climbing the ridge in the forefront of this photo and then pulled this avalanche out in the background. So we're triggering avalanches sometimes from hundreds of feet away. And so this is what we really want people to know, is that they need to give steep slopes really wide berth. And if I kind of show you what the current avalanche situation looks like now in terms of what you might see in our forecast, this is because of all the recent storm snow. And so if you look at our avalanche problem distribution rows here, where in the past few weeks we've really been highlighting kind of these northwest, northeast through southeast aspects, you can see now
Mm.
our distribution rows is entirely filled in. So now we can expect to encounter this persistent slab avalanche problem on steep slopes on all aspects and elevations. So those southerly slopes have now caught up to the rest of the compass rows because of all the storm snow we've received since that Christmas storm. So people need to be really cautious on slopes steeper than about 30 degrees, particularly in the thinner snowpack areas where these remote triggers are really likely.
Okay, Brian, a lot of information here, a lot of important and really good information. Also, you can go to your website. It's a great website, super easy to use, all kinds of resources there. Get up to speed on things. Go check that out. We'll have that at the bottom of the screen here. Happy New Year. Stay safe. We're going to try to stay safe, and we'll see you back in another week or so for Mountain TV update.
Yeah, great talking to you again. We'll see you next week.